So this is a, oh gosh darn it. I didn't take pictures. This is a project that somebody did. It was a project, I think, by NASA who set up they set up a camera feed, uh, not camera feed, a signal that they bounced off of Mars and sent back here for a bunch of people to interpret. And I don't understand the specifics of why you would do that. I'm trying to figure out why this would be. I mean, would this be a test to see how if like aliens were sending a signal, how we would interpret it? So, anyways, the somebody I guess electroshock from electro electro something from the remote view Discord said this is a project she's been working on. So it would be interesting to have me take a look at it. So this is my quickie initial look, and I figured you would be the one to talk to for why we would send a signal back from Mars of unknown origin. Basically, a signal that they have, hidden messages and we're supposed to decipher. So my question is who the creator is, why they would do this, and what this message is supposed to mean. So the initial question to you is why?
If you're sending a signal out, like receiving a signal makes sense. Sending it out to get it back,
Right.
I don't know if we can send a strong enough signal unless it got sent through spacecraft that's out there and they sent the signal back from the spacecraft, and that's what we're looking at.
Well, I'm
I
doing
know
that.
we can.
I'm doing a quick read on it, and I'll
Hmm,
see if I can send you a link. It's a sign in space simulating contact. So again, I think they're trying to simulate ET contact.
Okay, that makes sense.
Gee, this is why you're here because why? Why would they simulate contact? Why not have contact with, I mean, actual contact rather than simulate contact? What is the purpose of this?
Um, have you? I mean, I'm sure you of all people have seen things in front of you that are so far out of the realm of anything you know about. They are darn near impossible to interpret. If you put people through the exercise of let's simulate contact, you put them in a state of mind of how would they even think? What are they doing? You would start rearranging somebody's brain to figure out how you would even go about doing that.
So the whole goal of this is to actually have other people's ideas on how they would do a breakdown of the signal, right? So it's just basically
Right.
how to break down a signal.
Yeah, in an exercise in it, not just like, hey, let's think about it, but the whole thing of we have no idea what this signal is, who did it, what their number based system is, anything. Let's go try to extract how to do it. And like there are
Well,
things in our world that we practice now. Like for example, let's take hidden radio transmitter hunts. A lot of people know how to do it.
yeah,
The
yeah, it's
theories
easy.
and the basics of it are pretty easy. Yet, if you've gone out and done it 50 times, you get really good at it. I've done that maybe 15 times, and I'm a lot better at it than a beginner, but still, the people that did it 50 times, they can absolutely beat me. And
Well, right,
it's
because you get a feel for how to actually triangulate onto the existing.
right. And even how maps work and how often you stop to go look and things. So I imagine if they throw this exercise of hey, let's go see if we can decode an alien signal, this will get people to start thinking in vastly different ways to uncover it. And that sounds like an exercise that they would absolutely do because if they're planning contact soon, they're going to want to get people used to it. And also, if you're used to practicing it, you're not going to freak out when it happens.
Okay, so that's my other question, right? because me being a remote viewer and seeing a lot of different beings of actual, in the plane beings and different things, I don't ever remember coming across radio waves. I mean, I don't see radio waves as a means of communication between craft. I see the craft, I see the transportation, I see every aspect, but I don't see radio waves. Now, maybe they have something, maybe they have something or a different means of communication. Is it possible that they've actually maybe SETI or NASA has figured out what this alternate means of communication is, and they want to
Yeah.
try to have people look at it and decode it using this method.
That would not surprise me. I'm looking for I made one of the coils. It will be able to like how they communicate. And it's floating around here somewhere. I'm looking for it right now so I can take a picture and send it to you. I know I've got a picture somewhere. Oh, there's one of the coils.
Okay, so for the audience out there that's listening, this is one of my favorite remote viewers, and his mom is also a wonderful remote viewer. So if anybody has any questions, you can come onto my Discord and you can ask him all the questions. He's well into not psychics. He's physics. He's well into physics and loves discussing anti-gravity and energy-based themes. So look me up. I'll hook you up. And this is a remote viewer that I use on a lot of science-based projects. So take it away, Space.
Okay, so I'm trying to take a picture of this coil, and it's not the easiest thing. Maybe a description is better for people listening on audio anyway, although I'll send you the pictures in the side chat.
Yeah, because I'd like to see it.
So I didn't take a picture of the end of it. Let me go do that really quick. So basically, it's a fancy... I've got somebody else calling me on Discord. And that guy's interesting. He's been channeling stuff to me recently.
Bring him on here, man. I mean, if you think you can add to the conversation, throw him on here. We can just let him know that we're live.
Don't know if that would be a good plan.
Up to you.
Let me. Okay, so here's my little coil. It should be in the side chat here in a couple of seconds.
So now, is this little coil?
Picture 3 picture.
Is this little coil something that you think would actually assist in faster than light communication?
Supposedly, that's what it does. This coil configuration I first learned about it by a guy called Wilbert Smith. He worked for the Canadian government building radio transmitters, like the big radio TV transmitters back in the 1950s. Mm-hmm. And they came to him and they said, hey, we've got some things we'd like you to build. And this was one of the first items. And the project he worked for, I believe it was called Project Magnet, and it's still running today. It is still classified. But this particular stuff was never classified, so he did write about it. This coil you put on a ferrite core that's hollow, has to be hollow in the middle, and then you start wrapping from the center of the wire. And then when you get around to the opposite side, you cross the wires on top of each other. And then you go back, so on each side, the wires are crossed, and you do this completely uniformly. And it may look pretty easy, but what you do is you figure out the speed of light inside the ferrite core, and you make sure each one of these crosses lines up with how long it takes the speed of light to get to the next turn inside, or the speed of the radio wave, whatever you want to call it, all the way through. So they stack on top of each other. So what he says is this makes Well, one of the other assumptions is time is a field force. We've got 3 field forces: time, electricity, magnetism. They're all at 90 degrees to each other. So he says what this does is it wraps up the time, electric, and magnetic into like a little toroid, little donut shape, and it launches off the end of this. And because they have no mass, they can be directed anywhere you want them to go. And because the time dimension is wrapped up in on itself, you don't get any external influence with the flow rate of time being different on this planet versus another one versus wherever.
Right.
And they say this will make it through any object, through anything. So this little coil that I sent you the pictures to, I have hooked this up to a radio transmitter and transmitted into it, and it doesn't heat up. Not if you get enough power going through it. So the signal goes, and it doesn't come back. So it's going somewhere. It sort of shows up like a laser. You can pick it up with another coil or another one of these. Actually, any closed loop coil can pick it up, but like a single straight wire antenna won't hear it at all. It'll go clean through that.
Really?
Yeah. So you need a closed loop coil to be able to hear it. So something like an AM radio receiver typically has a ferrite core in it that'll pick it up.
Right.
But so whatever's happening here, energy appears to be going off into La La Land, and it doesn't come back when I transmit into it. But the signals are going to be specifically directed to targets, and they're only going where they're going. You're going to have a hard time picking these up unless the signal's meant for you.
Right. And that would be kind of interesting, because then you can actually play with seeing how you can kind of like scan the bandwidth of that particular where it's going.
Right. So you're going to have frequency because it is a radio wave thing. Like the one I have there, it works on a lot of frequencies in the HF radio bands. I haven't really tried it higher than that because you do need to match the impedance, and the antenna tuners don't work typically higher than the HF radio band.
Right.
So that's as high as I've tried it. So I imagine like less than 50 megahertz you'd be looking. And anyway, it's a cute little antenna that appears to be how they do it. I don't know if they have other ways to do it, but that's at least one of them.
Well, I mean, full time aspect again. The time aspect is what I'm kind of looking at. If these craft can go faster than time or faster than speed of light, that would be a key thing is that this little device can actually, with the time aspect in there, at least keep close to whatever these guys are going for as far as speed. And it would be fun to play with that little magnet to see with the closed loop system, see exactly what you're looking at, and then where the signal's going, and how fast it's going.
Yeah, I did not measure how fast it went. I didn't have an oscilloscope that could do that at the time. I do now, because I made that coil, I don't know, a long time ago.
Yeah, and that would be cool to set it out, give it a, 1 mile, I don't know, 1 mile radius or spread, and then see if you can actually pick up a signal from a mile away, or even 100 feet, and see if there is some sort of lag, or how much the lag would be.
It acts more like a laser, and I can tell the speed of light across a room or 6 inches away relatively easy. It's not that fast.
Right.
So yeah, I could set up an experiment, but it acts more like a laser. It just goes from one place to the other, and yeah, the idea of the speed of light being a thing. Imagine electrostatic induction. It influences the things close up before it influences the things farther away, just because it's got more. It's a squared ratio, I believe. So it influences the next thing near it, and then that influences the next thing near it, and that's just how speed of light is how fast that wave propagates. Sort of like how the speed of sound in the air. It's not a hard limit on how fast something can move. It's just usually how fast it goes.
Right.
I don't think the speed of light is any real obstacle. It's more of a math error.
And again, for all the beans and things that I've seen in my remote viewing, the communication thing is, how would you do that? Because I haven't seen how they would do that. It
So,
just,
according to Wilbert Smith, they take these itty bitty little antennas and they implant them at the end of a nerve fiber in someone when they're young. And they learn to communicate using that.
well, on that note, because I'm actually in the process of working with somebody with what they consider I don't know, what do you call it when you have an implant? An implant. One of the things is they have an implant. And when I look at this implant, I see growths tying into the nerves, but it's a semi-metallic structure. So it's a semi-metallic structure that is literally somebody's emailing me. Oh, electrosmog is watching. Cool.
Oh,
So okay, so this, if this coil and the same thing that I see in the person is a transmitter, okay, then I'm seeing a semi-metallic structure with fibrous and a fibrous end that's literally attached to the cellular walls. So it's very small. Not real small, but it's small and it's actually attached to the cells around it. And the method of implant was kind of interesting, but it is a device. It's very similar to what you have here. It's just a different shape. It's not. I don't know if it's ferrite. I think it's something else, but it's very similar to what I'm looking at here. And the question would be, is that what I'm looking at because my whole question on this thing was, is it a communication device? Is it a is it something to do with allowing transfer of something from point A to point B? Because that was my whole general thought, which is what your little device is. It's just basically an antenna, which would transfer something to somewhere else.
right.
And
I, I don't
you're
know how
late.
good you are at tracking things in time, but that antenna has been transmitted into, or its twin. I made two of them. Um, and if you go look at what kind of signal came off that, you might be able to see what their signal looked like.
I might have to do that. I might have to look to see if I can actually do a kind of like a timestamp thing where I can follow your signal to see. So
But
that's
I can
interesting.
also hook it back up to the radio, and I can go transmit into it again in real time if you'd like.
Right. Well, I actually it'd be fun to do that and then let me watch because I have a visual of what it would kind of look like, but I would actually like to have a real time. I'll assess it and then I'll tell you when the radio turns on. Basically, you would set it up for a particular time and not tell me when anything's happening. And what I'll do is I will watch and I will tell you what I see at what stage with no input. You know what I mean? So we do everything blind. And that would be kind of interesting to see if I can actually pick up accurately what this thing is doing without any input. Um, because I would like to see what the signal looks like and if it's anything like what I'm seeing with the other implants.
Yeah,
Okay, so back to assimilated assimilated conversation or assimilated message. They send a message, they're trying to decode it. We figure they're doing it because there's possibility they have assimilated message that they're trying to decode now, and they're trying to figure out a way to decode a language that has no identifiable ways of communication. So you have a signal, but you can't break it down because, I mean, obviously it's a foreign language and it would be written in a.
it just occurred to me if they were trying to figure it out and they couldn't, they might just tell people it's a simulated contact when it
I
actually is
know,
real.
I know. I was thinking, and that's what I was thinking too. What if it was real, right? So what? Now we're going to throw out a whole different scenario, not assimilated, but what if What if signal real? Okay. So now we're down to we have a group of people saying, hey, we have the simulated signal. We're going to send it back to Earth. Here's all the data. It's a simulated signal. This is if somebody sent us a signal from the stars, this is what it would look like. You guys need to figure it out. What if part of that signal is real? Okay. So they literally took part of the signal and then maybe they added to it to make it longer, right? So the initial signal is 4 blocks long, right? So they got 4 chunks of data long. Now what they did is they basically added to it, maybe copied structures or whatever, and they added to it to make it a little bit longer to give us more to play with. And they said, hey, here's our experiment. We're going to bounce it off here. We're going to catch it over here. This is what you got. Okay. So now what you're thinking is the signal's real, and it really is something that can be looked at and interpreted. How would you go about interpreting that?
Um, my first thought is, let's say we take a digital format we use on Earth, not super common, but we use it for long distance, low power communication, called PSK31. And the reason for 31 is it's 31 bits per second, which turns out to be about the fastest you can type on a keyboard. So they made it to where you can chat with people on the keyboard using the radio in real time. And every once in a while, somebody asks me if I know Morse code, and I tell them, well, no. I've been trying to learn PSK31, but I can't even whistle the carrier tone yet. And it's like there is stuff that carrier does every time with no other information in there.
Right.
Potentially, they could have sampled and figured out the basic alphabet and put that in the whole thing, to where let's see if people can figure out the alphabet for us without any information encoded in it. Like literally go look at all the different letters. You could go see they're different and copy them and paste them into something and then see if somebody could decode the format of it or something.
Right.
That would be the kind of thing they could do without giving away the original message, but still copying enough to where people would go figure it out for them. But figuring out how the carrier tones work and your distance and numbers of bits or however it happens to work could be vowels, consonants, tones, could be an innumerable amount of different encoding methods. There's just so many possibilities.
I mean, it really is. I
Yeah,
mean, if the let's say an entity has uh, both tonal and other forms of communication that's being passed on here, then we have to every scratch, every nuance has got to be addressed. And that would be a challenge because you wouldn't know what's good and what's garbage. So I mean,
right.
if you got a lot of debris or artifacts in there, you'd be fighting the debris and artifacts, and they would be overwhelming at time because you would literally have artifacts that repeat, and this would become part of this language that you're making because of the repeating factor. So you'd be screwing yourself. You need a way to clear um, maybe a way
Well,
to group it and then clear any artifacts so that the artifacts that are repeated or part of a known distraction can be eliminated. I just don't know how you would do that in any
well,
reasonable
that
way.
might be why you give it away to everyone and see what they come up with, and maybe somebody's clever and figured out something you didn't think of.
Right, right. And that's what it sounds like they did. They literally it's like here's this data, here is the what we're doing, and then you guys need to figure everything else out. So that would be that would be an inexpensive way to literally have a signal from space decoded with as many possible minds without saying, hey, this is a signal from space and I want you to decode it. I mean, to me, it's genius. I'm an absolute genius on the fact that this is as devious as you could possibly get. So I love
These
it.
I want to go play. I mean, if they're training people to do this because they'll need these people in the future. Also, potentially it's a recruiting thing and they already know the language and they're just looking to see who is good enough to figure it out
Mhm.
because that's how I'd recruit people.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely be a recruiting thing. So, I mean, I'm sure these people that are deciphering this are extremely extreme, and I'm sure that they okay, balanced and others are same-ish as you for volume. Oh, cool. So my volume is okay. So it's right now we have me, you, Copilot, and Electrosmog uh, watching. So that's really cool. Um, what was I saying? Something about really cool. Okay. Anyways, I was saying that this is a great way to literally take a hidden message and have multiple people look at it without scaring them by saying, this is a real life caught signal. You're basically because one of the things I'm finding is the feedback alone from oh my God, there's aliens is they're not kidding, man. It's insane. The response out there, I'm like blown away. I'm dying to meet one, and other people are like almost hostile to the. So to me, it's just weird. I don't understand it. Okay, so let's see what
I think
like
I understand it. Like I watched a movie called 7 Years in Tibet last night,
was it any good?
and I am confusing that with another movie. Damn it! Um, I watched a movie with my mom. Oh, this Into the Sixth Happiness, I think it's called.
Oh my
And
God,
there,
is that the one where they're like in this enormous hotel?
oh
No,
no, no, this is like they're in. This is about a story about a lady. It's a true story. She goes to China to go help people. She ends up leading a bunch of children out of the war zone when war breaks out
right,
and saving them all. It's an amazing story. And when they introduce her to the things, they're like, the people in this village will call the people of the next village foreigners
right.
because they're in the next village. Like, and they're hostile toward them. They don't trust them. People have an innate thing of to be safe, you want to know each and every single one of your neighbors and who they are. And if you don't know them, they keep them at an arm's length or further. I can see why people would freak out at aliens because they're following that same pattern of if you don't know them, you don't know what they're doing, and that's not really safe.
Well,
I don't
exactly.
have that point of view, but I understand why they would take that point of view, and maybe theirs is a safer route. I don't know.
Well, and I've always been very skeptical of tall whites being friendly. I'm very skeptical of grays being friendly, and mantids are alien enough that at that point when they cross the threshold of giant cockroaches are coming to, eat me, that is truly terrifying. But again, I mean, I'm sure there's good mantids and tall whites and stuff like that. And it'd be great, but again, crossing that border for having the freakiness of a giant walking, talking cockroach is very hard to take. Um, so I understand the aspect of many people, but it seems to be a knee-jerk reaction, and it's not based
Yeah.
on thought. So it's just very unusual. The my co-pilot asks, "How do other alien species see us humans as race in general? We are primates. We are monkey feces throwing primates. We are very low on the totem pole, and we're not very smart."
I mean, if you look at current breeding practices, 40% of the males reproduce, 90% of the females reproduce. You look at like all this stuff. humans at the current point in history are identical to other monkeys and primates. We are just talking and we use fire, and that's about the only difference.
I think my poo smells better than their poo, but I'm just saying, if we're gonna get in a poo flinging contest, mine will come out top dog. No, again, every time I've interacted with anything, then the interaction has gone to where people are very annoyed that I'm there. They really don't want to sit around and try to talk to the lower races, which is fine. I'm just going to keep going around their back and find somebody who does. So, and as Space Case will testify, I'm very persistent and I'm very annoying. So they're going to be in for a shock when I come knocking on their door. I'm pretty excited. Uh, we'll see. We shall see. And the other thing is that if Space Case can literally get off his ass and make me a spaceship so I can fly out there and meet these people in space, then I can be really annoying. It would be much better. But Space Case has got some work to do. We got to get this going. We have to interpret this signal to see if it's actually a real signal. Is there anything else about this that we can look at? I mean, is there anything possible? One of the things I'm looking at is the people behind. So here's the people behind. Now I have two faces. I got two individuals in individuals. One's bald headed, short guy, and the other one's a taller, leaner looking guy. So I have a bald headed short guy with a rounded face, and I have a taller, leaner looking guy that has two older gentlemen. I don't see anything hostile. I don't see anything negative about them. They seem to be in contact with a lot of different, um, let's call them groups for now. So they're in contact with a lot of different groups. They're in contact with both government, non-government, under government, and money. And these two individuals have a whole bunch of other people underneath them. So, but the two main individuals seem to me, to my best of my knowledge, without going too deep into them, very interesting people. So it would be kind of cool to actually see who these two people are. There seems to be a third person there that is like a moderator. I don't know what I don't know what this means, but like when there's a disagreement or a issue, she literally smacks both of them in the head and figures out the best course of action to fix things. So of the three, she is probably like the one in between that has some issues. So I don't know who she is, and I don't know what role she plays, but she is not seen like the two. She's more hidden, and I'm wondering if she's with the quasi government agencies that is also in this place, kind of like a CIA minder, where she feeds whatever information that these guys need to know, and then she tries to keep everything straight and orderly. So that would be kind of interesting. If this is a CIA run or quasi government run issue from, I shouldn't say CIA, how about just a quasi government run uh, program where we have a lot of government interaction and looking for a common goal. And I don't know whose government it is because we're talking multiple governments here. We're not just talking about USA interests. We're talking about
Oh, I'm sure all these are linked. Do you remember two instances I saw in the news? The one was somebody asked the Emperor of China if they were going to tell us about the UFOs, and he said, "We're going to follow the United States on this one."
What?
And then,
I didn't see that.
oh yeah, and the other one that strikes me as interesting was the guy that runs the Russian military was in some conference, and somebody asked him, "Is it true there's something about aliens?" in the documents you have to read before you launch the nuke weapons. And he replied and said, actually, that's the only thing you have to read before you launch the nuke weapon, is about the aliens living on Earth.
Please do not nuke here, here, and here. Everything else, hey, go for it. Yeah, that's funny. Oh my God, that's funny. Uh, do do not nuke here. I saw a posting from the Chinese website or Chinese news agency of a somebody coming online saying, "We have nukes. You need to fear us. You need to not threaten us anymore because we have this big nuke and it can be over there in 30 seconds." And it seemed like a very small man with a little dick shaking a big stick. Yeah, I'm sorry, that seems kind of wild, but it really felt like a bully shaking a stick saying, "I have this nuke." And all I could think of was, okay, well, you have a nuke. What do we have? We had a nuke back in the 40s and 50s. What is it now? I mean, what is our in-game weapon of choice now? I mean, because nukes are pretty old-fashioned. I can't even imagine what the next gen um, destroyer is. The Russians had the Tsar bomb. We've got something that's got to be bigger, better, and a little bit more robust. So I just thought it was
It
funny
does,
that it literally the image though I got was this little man holding a big stick and saying, "Look, look at ours. It's so big." That was just so funny. But the Russians being told not to do something until they read a manual about aliens. And here we are
yeah,
trying to interpret a signal, a possible alien signal, and that's even funnier. So
yeah.
nukes are
So
imprecise.
I'm pretty sure they know, but it strikes me as this decoding the alien signal is yet another thing in trying to tell us really quietly. Like, look at NASA finally admitted that there used to be water and life on Mars. And they did it quietly to where most people have no idea that even happened. And,
Yeah,
you know,
the think that there was a small ocean on the inland area of Mars, and then the ocean was wiped away. It's like that's climate change. Why did that ocean get wiped away? Well, maybe that's why they don't want to tell the general public, or they really don't want to announce that to the general public, because it's like here you have a catastrophic, massively catastrophic event wiping out, completely destroying the fourth planet from the sun, and we're the third. Can you imagine what happened here? I mean, I would say that at least half of the world was exposed to whatever wiped out uh, the the Martian atmosphere. I'm assuming because from what I saw, it looks like a tidal wave, and the tidal wave basically strips the environment and the atmosphere off into space. Once that's gone, then it just keeps just flare after flare, just keeps stripping it away. So I'm assuming that's what happened to the ocean, is it literally got stripped into space. Now, we're the third planet. Can you imagine the devastation of having a flare reach out and just literally obliterate part of our, atmosphere? How damaging it would be. But the
well,
question is was Mars on one side of the sun and us on the other, so we didn't get any of that, or was it a burp?
right. Well, there was also another planet that is now, an asteroid belt, and that one appears to have been completely destroyed.
Yeah.
So I think it gets even worse than what happened on Mars. Uh, you know, some big event happened. I don't know of has anyone remote viewed that event or those events?
So that fourth
Um,
planet, the planet you're talking about, that was between us and Mars, right? The one thing that I got was it's like this broke apart and literally chunks of it went into different directions, but I can't tell when it broke apart. when this thing just basically fragmented because of Jupiter's pull and, the whatever catastrophic thing happened where these chunks went flying off. I mean, is this what keeps zipping in from the Kuiper Belt? Just huge chunks of this planet remainder? It would be interesting to find out. Uh, that would make
No,
a great target for remote viewing.
well, the one thing that gets me, and I don't know how, like, if you've seen this, you might. Ed Dames did this, like, he called this event the kill shot, and he said he found it through he gave people learning remote viewing as a target their ideal future. And a
Right,
bunch of them started coming back with growing their own food and living underground.
right,
And his question was, that's odd. Why? And um there's a guy I've been listening to on YouTube for quite a while now. I don't know, over 10 years, named Ben Davidson.
hmm
And before he did that, we only knew him as Suspicious Observer on YouTube. Nobody knew his name. Since then, he's published textbooks. He seems to have pieced it together rather well of what actually happens. I'm not sure he's right, or if he's like trying to put this out to manipulate public opinion to like make it happen somehow, or I'm not quite sure he's right, but his basic idea is that the cosmic core, uh, it is like a big spinning bar magnet. And when you do that, you get this accordion shaped wave in magnetism. And
right,
we know this really, really well because our sun does this to the Earth, and we cross this magnetic wave every 2 weeks.
right,
The one from the galactic core, we cross it every, I think it's 6,000 years, with the one at every 12,000 years being the one that apparently does the devastation. It basically clogs up the sun with a bunch of dust, or the other idea, and this is one I get from other people, that our star is basically a giant ball lightning and it's fed by an external current. So when this reverses, the sun goes out. The other idea is the dust clogs it up and it goes out. Either way, it's off for 1 to 3 days with the historical accounts that people wrote down. When it turns back on, it flashes. It's about 50 to 100 times as bright as normal. We know that number because the two stars closest to the galactic core from us have already done this giant flash thing. In order of how they would do, our sun is next, and so that half of the planet's going to get pretty much fried. You're going to get the electric currents that are up in the atmosphere. Those are going to get crushed by this all the way down to the surface, and you would get something like the Grand Canyon ripped out in moments. That would all go into low Earth orbit and then fall back down. Those
which
woolly
would
mammoths that found frozen to death, like frozen way quicker than temperature could do,
great.
that was an electrical event, but not only that, that's not what killed them. It was these little micrometeors that went all the way down to the core of their bones.
Well, it was also
Uh,
the cold. I mean, when you strip the
right.
atmosphere like that, the temperature drop would be so extreme that you're not talking minus degrees. You're talking minus degrees to where liquid nitrogen is probably not too far off, where you would literally have
Yeah.
liquid snow. And
Well, you can. It's an electric arc thing. You can take heat from one side of an electric arc and deposit it in the other. When you're welding, one side stays cold and the other side heats up, and you
well, what
specifically use your polarity to set that.
what is the process called when they actually take the heat from one side and put it as cold on the other? There's the mechanical electrical process,
Like,
and they
well,
use it
there's
in
a Peltier
refrigerators.
junction.
A what?
The Peltier chips
The
do
Peltier
that.
chips. For whatever
Right.
reason, the Peltier chips. So I'm literally seeing like a massive Peltier effect where you have massive blast and energy here, but massive opposite. The energy is being pulled away. Now everything is freezing in a heartbeat. Just like you're saying, it would be
Right.
the energy would be drawn off immediately of everything. And I don't know
Right.
if this would happen in a high energy situation where you have flares and streamers of energy just pouring through the atmosphere. I mean, literally laying down lines of energy down to the ground. Which is funny because in our view of a different planet, this is exactly what was happening, is where the red sun would flare. The energy from that flare would literally come into the ozone, not ozone. It would come into the outer magnetic field and get channeled down to the planet. So we were literally watching the solar flare be channeled down to the planet to where it was harvested. But it was huge sheets of lightning and energy. So the thing you're talking about right now with the massive explosions and the electricity and this is what we were seeing on a planet when we did our last view. It was just controlled, and I don't understand why. So, anyways,
Um,
that is fascinating, and that's fascinating to think about. How did we get here?
so I don't exactly remember, but I have researched like what like I would call it a really bad week that we're likely to have in the future.
Yeah.
Uh, and I've been researching what is it, how do I deal with it, what would happen. I mean, imagine what happens if instead of that electric arc that you can see on Mars, that it's like this giant electric scar down half of the planet. If that happened under an ocean, it could easily blow the entire ocean off the planet or that half of it. If
Oh,
it
that's
happened,
right.
it'll,
Yeah.
blow out like the Grand Canyon. But if that hit in water, you would have a very different place. But like for the Earth, it looks like the crust and the core of the Earth are magnetically locked. When that magnetic field strength goes to zero, it's free to flip.
You're right.
And so you would get oceans washing over continents. You would get just a really bad week in all kinds of ways. But when you look at the statistics from our archaeological record, it only extincts, I think it's 4% of the species each time this happens. So it's bad, but it's not that bad.
But Earth is a lot bigger than Mars too. So being a bigger planet, it can absorb a lot more shock. So the whole size difference and the magnetic field difference between the two planets would make a hell of a difference. So we will be affected. Mars was really affected just because of its size. So if I got a full frontal shot by whatever this terrible thing was, it would be more affected due to its size, shape, and everything about it. Hey, Copilot had some statements. He said nukes are imprecise. Hypothetically, wouldn't it be lasers? Uh, isn't there stuff about Mars from Stargate program and humans being underground in the Nostradamus book? Did you hear anything about humans being underground in the Nostradamus book? I
I
mean, you
know
were
that
telling me you were,
archaeology, there are cities all over the planet underground, all
but
over
for
the place where
future,
people
but
did that. But
yeah,
Nostradamus.
yeah, but see, Nostradamus does he have any future predictions of people being underground? I don't remember. I don't remember any
I
of
don't
his
know. Like
quatrains.
I know if we look at how many tunneling machines have been sold on the planet, there is an enormous amount of underground space. There has to be. You
Yeah.
just wouldn't need that many for subways and all of that. They sold so many of those things. There has to be enormous underground stuff all over.
I would
USA, Russia, and China all bought them.
I would love to have my own, I don't know, 20-meter tunneling machine, boring machine, and I would literally set it up on my little acreage and just start tunneling, and there would be no stopping. I would just keep going until I felt like I was done. How cool would that be? I mean, you know what? Hey, I need a hole. Let's go another 30 feet this way. It would be
I
great.
was thinking about building a rototiller type thing, but with a bunch of things in the front, so you could just start tunneling with it. And I tried to look up on YouTube like home tunneling machine, like nobody sells that. So it would have to be something you built, but I would really love to try something like that.
I had
Open pit
this.
excavation and then build the whole thing and then put the dirt back on top might be a better method.
Yeah,
Um,
one of
I don't know,
the
probably
one,
fun.
one of the
What?
things that I looked at in during a remote view was microwave microwave uh, mining. So they basically blast the rock ahead with microwaves, superheating it. And then the scraper head comes right behind, and the superheated rock is sprayed with a little bit of cold water, which instantly causes microfractures. So now the rock just basically chips off. So when you're doing hard rock mining and want to go through like a tunnel of granite, you basically have this microwave that literally zaps the rock, blasts it with a little bit of cold. The little chipper just and knocks it off. And there's no wear because it's just knocking off this little chip piece of stuff that's just barely hanging on there from the because of the change in the micro, the change in uh the it literally pops itself off, and all the little scraper does is scrapes off by little pressure. So very little wear on wear head, and it was like this is the coolest idea I've ever seen. Now I don't know how that would work for sand or conditions where you have heavy clay or whatever, but for hard rock, this would be fantastic. You would
If you
literally
have granite,
cook. Yeah, if you had granite, it would be fantastic.
so there's a fantastic system somebody figured out, and they figured out not only how the monuments around the world that what do they call that polygon masonry,
Right,
how all this stuff was built. They show the artifacts of it in Egypt and around the world. The little nubs on the side, they show why those are required to build it with this method.
right.
And what they do is they take the sodium and the potassium hydroxide out of wood ashes, basically. The Egyptians didn't appear to do that. They used the nitron. I believe it's a natural salt that they used to have massive deposits that they used it all,
Hmm.
apparently, to build all this stuff. And they would burn it on top of the granite or any quartz type rock, and it will dissolve it, and it makes this chemical usually called water glass, sodium
Right,
silicate.
right.
You take a sodium silicate solution, and then you take your sand. You mix sand with, I think it's 2%, the, what do they call it, slaked lime, as
Right.
an activator. You toss this in as sand in the sodium silicate solution, and then you drain off the extra water. That's what makes the little nubs. And it solidifies into stone. And it looks the exact same way as these people have done it because they've gone and reproduced it. So you take your hard granite and you make your water glass to then go make your stuff above ground. So literally, you end up tunneling below ground and you end up with your structures above ground from the same raw material. And it can be done super primitive and easy. It's not even that hard. And it looks like that's why ancient Egypt had this massive underground tunnels everywhere and system, is they were using this carving out to make the raw materials to make things like the pyramids.
Right, right, which makes sense.
Anyway, it's just incredible. And there is a drawing of it, and somebody worked out the whole damn thing and figured it out. It's incredible. That's probably not a bad option for something we can afford on our own. Because I've looked at the microwave systems, I've looked at the cavitation jets that will tunnel through, like the mining industry uses. These are not small scale things.
No, but it would be cool to see how we can get our hands on it just to do test runs. A Copilot wants us to take a look at a target at some point. So somewhere down the line, remind
Okay.
me that Copilot has a target for us to look at. We'll kick it around. All right. So is there anything else on this signal, the people, the project? Is there anything about this project that we need to look at, or have we covered all the possible bases? How about this? How about this? This is out there. They can take a look at it when they want. So the people who are part of this target, whether good, bad, or scary, can look at this and then they can ask us questions. So if anybody's out there and they take a look at me and Space discussing this and they want to ask questions and have us look at uh, any aspect of this particular thing, such as maybe you have questions about a one of the four parts. We want us to see if we can pick up anything unusual or add to it, or maybe do diagrams or something. If you guys have questions, contact me here at the Assign in Space. I will send this Discord to Space. He'll have it too. And then between the two of us, you can drop us a line. We'll set up another live view like this. And then when Space has got some time and when I got some time, we'll answer any of your guys' questions. But kind of guide us into what we're looking for or what you want us to look at without giving us too much information. Because the more front loaded we are on this, the harder it is to actually figure out what we're looking at because we have our own ideas of what this is and what this can be. I came into this mostly front loaded. I still don't understand a lot of things. And Space came into it just a little bit front loaded. So it's going to be cool to get any response from you guys. In the meantime, thank you very much for letting me post this here on your channel. And if you have any questions, just give me a holler. And Electroshock, thank you, thank you, thank you for sending me this way because it's really interesting and I like this kind of challenge. So I will talk to you later. Electrosmog. Anyway, Space, I'm going to cut it short. Thank you so much for jumping on with me. I do appreciate this, and I'm going to shut this bad boy down. And I will see when somebody, if you keep watching and if somebody sends us any messages, let's make a list and see how many we can answer. So, all right,
I'm
man.
all for it.